Futebol Clube do Porto MHIHMHOM, commonly known as FC Porto or simply Porto, is a Portuguese sports club based in Porto. It is mostly known for its professional football team, which plays in the Primeira Liga, the top tier of the Portuguese football league system. Founded on September 28, 1893, it is one of the big three teams in Portugal, together with Lisbon-based rivals Benfica and Sporting Camp, who have never been relegated from the Primeira Liga since its establishment in 1933. The team is nicknamed Dragões, for the mythological creatures standing atop the club's crest, or Azuis brancos, for the kit colours. Their supporters are called Portistas. Since 2003, Porto have played its home games at the Estádio do Dragão, which replaced the previous 52-year-old ground, the Estádio das Antas. Porto is the most successful Portuguese club in terms of overall titles, having won a total of 74 titles. Domestically, Porto has won 27 Primeira Liga titles, 5 of which in consecutive seasons, a record in Portuguese football. Other national honours achieved by the club include the Tour Seccional de Portugal, the defunct Campeonato de Portugal and the Supertaça Seccional Ascendido de Oliveira. Porto became the second team in Portuguese league history, after Benfica, to complete two 30-game seasons without defeats, namely in the 2010 Euro 11 and 2012 Euro 13 seasons. In the former, Porto achieved the largest difference of points ever between champion and runner-up in a 3 points per win system, on its way to a second quadruple. Internationally, Porto won the European Cup UEFA Champions League in 1987 and 2004, the UEFA Cup Europa League in 2003 and 2011, the UEFA Super Cup in 1987, and the Intercontinental Cup in 1987 and 2004, for a total of 7 titles. It is the only Portuguese team to have won any of the last 3 competitions, and one of few teams in the world to have won 3 international titles in the same season. In addition, Porto was runner-up at the 1983 Euro 84 European Cup Winners' Cup and the 2003, 2004 and 2011 editions of the UEFA Super Cup. History, early years. The club was founded on September 28, 1893 as Futebol Clube do Porto by António Nicolau de Almeida, a local port wine merchant and avid sportsman, who became fascinated with football during his trips to England. Porto played its first matches with other Portuguese clubs, including one against Lisbon's Futebol Clube Lisbonense on March 2, 1894. This match had the patronage of King Carlos I and Queen Ama copyright lie of all the copyright Annes, who travelled to Porto to witness the event and present a trophy to the winners. Almeida's enthusiasm and involvement with the club waned due to family pressure, and by the turn of the century, Porto had entered a period of inactivity. In 1906, José copyright Monteiro da Costa returned to Porto after finishing his studies in England. Like Almeida, 13 years before, he was also captivated by the English game, and together with some associates, decided to reintroduce the practice of football in the city, outside of the British circles. On August 2, 1906, Porto was revived and Monteiro da Costa appointed its president. Although football was the driving force, the club also promoted other sports, including gymnastics, weightlifting and wrestling, athletics and swimming. Shortly after, Porto entered its first ground and recruited a French coach named Adolphe Cassin, who would stay in the club until 1925. On December 15, 1907, Porto played its first match against a foreign team, hosting Spain's Real Fortuna. In the following month, Porto returned the visit and played its first match abroad. 4 years later, the club won the inaugural staging of the Tour Seccional José copyright Monteiro da Costa, securing its first ever official title. In 1912, Porto joined efforts with Leagues Amicronas to establish the Porto Football Association, which began organising the regional championship in the following year. Porto finished the first season as runners-up, behind local rivals Boa Vista, but in the following season the club won its first championship. By the end of the 1920 Euro 21 season, Porto had been regional champions 6 times in 7 years, and outright winners of the tour section are José copyright Monteiro da Costa, after claiming a third consecutive victory in 1916. First national titles in drought years. The 1921 Euro 22 season was marked by the creation of the first nationwide football competition, the Campeonato de Portugal. Organized by the National Federation, this knockout tournament gathered the winners of the different regional championships to determine the Portuguese champions. After clinching its fourth consecutive regional title, Porto defeated Sporting Camp in the inaugural edition and became the first national champions. While a dominant regional force, the club faced stronger opposition in the national championship, winning it 3 other times in a span of 16 years. In 1933 Euro 34, Porto was denied participation in the Campeonato de Portugal by its football association for refusing to release players for a match between the Porto and Lisbon regional teams. In the following season, a second national competition named Campeonato da Primeira Liga, or simply Primeira Liga, was provisionally established by the National Federation to increase the number of matches per season and improve the competitiveness of Portuguese football. As the regional champion, Porto qualified for the first edition of the new round-robin competition, winning it with 10 victories in 14 matches. Due to the success of its format, the Primeira Liga was made an official championship competition for the 1938 Euro 39 season, taking the place of the Campeonato de Portugal, which in turn was converted into the Tour Section de Portugal, the main cup competition. Porto won the inaugural edition of the new league championship and successfully defended the title in the next season, despite almost failing to take part. The club failed to secure a third consecutive title and would only return to a top 3 finish in the 1946 Euro 47 season, after winning its 30th and last regional championship. In 1948, Porto defeated English champions Arsenal 3 Euro 2 in a friendly match. To commemorate this victory, the associates offered the club a massive trophy made of 250 kg of silver and would Euro the tour section of Arsenal. Having endured a 16-year title drought period, Porto returned to winning ways by taking the 1955 Euro 56 Primeira Liga on head-to-head advantage over runners-up Benfica. Later that season, Porto beat Torreense to win its first tour section de Portugal and achieve its first double. As the Portuguese league winner, Porto made its debut in European competitions by qualifying for the 1956 Euro 57 European Cup. The club's first participation was short-lived, ending in the preliminary round with 2 defeats against Spanish champions Athletic Bilbao. A year later, Porto lifted its second tour section de Portugal by beating Benfica 1-0 in the final. The two clubs met again in the following season's final, but this time Benfica took the trophy and prevented a second double for Porto, who had won the 1958 Euro 59 Primeira Liga 3 months before. Shortly after, the club entered another lackluster period of its history, the highest point of which was a victory in the 1968 Tour Section de Portugal final. During this time, Porto achieved its worst-ever league classification, a 9th place in 1969 Euro 70, while its best league record consisted of 6 runner-up finishes. In European competitions, the club participated for the first time in the Intercities Fairs Cup and in the Cup Winners' Cup, without getting past the third round. One of the club's most tragic moments occurred on December 16, 1973, when during a league match against Vita Clube Rio de Setúbal, 26-year-old captain Pava Pondo fell unconscious on the pitch and died later at the hospital. The following month, Porto presented Peruvian international T-Cubed Philo Cubillas, who became one of the club's most successful players, scoring 65 goals in 108 games. International affirmation. The return of José copyright Maria ɛpoɾtu a former Porto player and head coach in the late 1960s in the 1976 Euro 77 season started a new chapter in the club's history. Responsible for the previous cup triumph in 1968, ɛpoɾtu guided Porto to its 4th title in the competition. In the following season, he put an end to Porto's league title drought, winning the championship 19 years after having played in the team that took the last title. Internationally, Porto reached the quarter-finals of the 1977 Euro 78 Cup Winners' Cup, beating Manchester United along the way, but suffered its heaviest defeat against AEK Athens in the subsequent season's European Cup. A poor run of performances in the latter part of the season the Euro resulting in the loss of the league and cup titles a Euro sparked a conflict between the technical staff and President Arma copyright Rico Dazar, which ended with the resignation of ʻpoɾtu and his replacement by Herman Stessel. In December 1981, Porto overcame Benfica to win the inaugural staging of the Portuguese Super Cup, the Supertaça Section Acar Sendido de Oliveira. ʻpoɾtu returned in April 1982 by the hand of the club's newly elected president Jorge Nuno Pinto da Costa, who had resigned as director of football 2 years before, in solidarity with the coach. The previous month, Porto fell again in the Cup Winners' Cup quarter-finals against one of the eventual finalists, but needed only 2 years to finally reach the competition's final. On May 16, 1984, Porto played its first major European final in Basel St. Jacob Stadium, losing 2-1 to Michel Platini's Juventus. Already without ʻpoɾtu, who stepped down due to illness, Porto won that season's Tour Section A and Supertaça Section A but lost the championship to Benfica. Under the steering of ʻpoɾtu's apprentice, Artur Jorge, the following season brought the Primeira Liga title back to the club and crowned homegrown striker Fernando Gomes as Europe's top goal scorer for the second time, after first taking the award in 1983. Porto retained the league title in 1986, securing an entry to the 1986 Euro 87 European Cup. In the first game, the club recorded its biggest win in European competitions, 9-0 against Maltese side Rabat Ajax. Vartkovice of Czechoslovakia, BraNDBY of Denmark, and Dynamo Kiev of the Soviet Union were successively eliminated as Porto advanced to its first European Cup final, against Bayern Munich. Trailing the Germans 1-0 until the 79th minute, Porto scored twice in 2 minutes the first goal through a famous back heel from former Algerian international Rabat Majer, who assisted Jouari for the second Euro to secure a surprising win and the European Cup title. The club completed a treble of international trophies by beating Ajax for the 1987 European Super Cup and Uruguay's P+or- a role for the 1987 Intercontinental Cup. The 1987 Euro 88 season was one of the most successful for the club, who also won the Tour Section de Portugal and an expanded 20-team Primeira Liga with a record number of goals scored and distance in points to the runners-up. Tri, tetra, penta. In contrast to the previous season, Porto failed to win a trophy in 1988 Euro 89, with many of its players struck down with injuries, such as Majer and Gomes. 15 years after his first team debut, Gomes made his last season for Porto, where he became the all-time top goal scorer with 352 goals in 455 matches. The club brought back Artur Jorge, who recovered the Primeira Liga title in the following season and added the Tour Section A and Supertaça Section A trophies in 1991. His successor, Brazilian Carlos Alberto Silva, won back-to-back league titles in 2 seasons and qualified Porto for the first UEFA Champions League. Midway through the 1993 Euro 94 season, Porto hired former England manager Bobby Robson, who had been sacked by Sporting Camp. The club closed the gap to league winners Benfica, reached the 1993 Euro 94 UEFA Champions League semi-finals and ended the season with a victory over Sporting Camp in the Tour Section de Portugal final. In Robson's first full season, Porto claimed the 1994 Euro 95 Primeira Liga title with a win at Sporting Camp's ground and played Benfica 4 times to secure both the 1993 and 1994 stagings of the Supertaça Section A. The beginning of the season had been clouded by the death of 26-year-old midfielder Rui Filipe, who had scored the club's first league goal. Robson's increasing health problems barred him from leading Porto in the first months of the 1995 Euro 96 season, but he returned in time to revalidate the league title. Striker Domingos Paixão became the club's top goal scorer for the second consecutive time and won that season's Bola de Prata, the last win by a Portuguese player. To fill the void left by the departure of Robson for Barcelona, Porto hired former club captain and Portugal national team manager ɛklube Oliveira. Under his command, Porto made history by winning a third consecutive league title for the first time, leaving the runners-up at distance of 13 points. The club's 8th ʻfuteːbɔ噚 sectional win over Benfica was achieved with a solid performance at the Estádio da Luz that resulted in a 5-0 scoreline. The arrival of Brazilian players Arthur and Mario Jardel proved highly productive in the 1996 Euro 97 UEFA Champions League, as their goals helped Porto beat Milan in Italy and win its group without defeats. In addition, Jardel would win the first of 4 consecutive Bola de Prata awards while at Porto. In Oliveira's second and last season at the club, Porto won the Primeira Liga for the 4th straight season, matching Sporting Camp's achievement in the early 1950s, and secured its third double after beating Braga in the 1998 Tour Seccional de Portugal final. For the 1998 Euro 99 season, Porto tasked Portuguese coach Fernando Santos with winning the club's 5th successive Primeira Liga title, a Portuguese football record. He accomplished this feat, becoming thereafter known as the Penta Engineer, and saw Jardel's 36 goals win him the European Golden Shoe. Porto lost the chance to win its 6th straight league title, after finishing 4 points behind 1999 Euro 2000 Primeira Liga champions Sporting, but overcame them to lift its 10th Tour Seccional de Portugal trophy. Despite winning the Portuguese Cup for the second time in 2 years, continued failure to retake the league title led to the resignation of Santos at the end of the 2000 Euro 01 season. Mourinho's golden years. The appointment of former club player and assistant coach Octavio Machado to head Porto back to the league title appeared to pay off as the team began the season with a ʻfuteːbɔ骝 sectional win against the 2000 Euro 01 Primeira Liga winners, Boa Vista. However, this would be the only major achievement in a lackluster season that would culminate with a third place in the league classification, the lowest in 20 years. The elimination from the 2001 Euro 02 Tour Seccional de Portugal, 4 days after losing away for the Primeira Liga, precipitated the sacking of Machado after 36 matches in charge. 2 days later, Porto signed União de Louria's coach, José Copyright Mourinho, who had previously worked in the club alongside Robson. In his presentation, Mourinho promptly showcased his personality by stating unequivocally that the club would win next season's league title. He kept true to his promise and delivered one of the club's most successful seasons. Fielding the likes of Deco, Ricardo Carvalho, Muniz, and less-known players hired from other Portuguese clubs, such as Paulo Ferreira, Pedro Emanuel, Nuno Valente and Erlei, Porto won the 2002 Euro 03 Primeira Liga with relative comfort, finishing 11 points ahead of second-placed Benfica. The club also reached the UEFA Cup final in Seville, where it overcame Celtic in a dramatic game, decided in extra time, to win its second major European title. Mourinho then secured an unprecedented treble for Porto by winning the Tour Seccional de Portugal final against his previous club. The 2003 Euro 04 season began with another 1-0 win over União de Louria, which gave the club its 13th ʻfuteːbɔ傲Section A. Weeks later, Porto failed to repeat this result in the 2003 UEFA Super Cup, losing 1-0 to Milan. The departure of striker Copyright Lder Postiga was compensated by the definite signing of South Africa's Benny McCarthy, whose 20 league goals helped Porto in its league title defence and crowned him the competition's top scorer. Confident with the quality of his team and motivated by the previous season's UEFA Cup victory, Mourinho attacked the 2003 Euro 04 UEFA Champions League with serious hopes of reaching far in the competition. Porto finished second in its group, losing only once to Real Madrid, and advanced to a round of 16 meeting with Manchester United. In a dramatic turn of events, Porto scored on the 90th minute of the second leg at Old Trafford to draw 1-1 and proceed to the quarter-finals with a 3-2 aggregate win. The team then overcame Lyon and Deportivo La Coruña +or-A and reached a Gelsenkirchen final, where it defeated Monaco 3-0 to lift the club's second European Champion Clubs Cup. a 2-1 loss to Benfica in the Tour Section de Portugal final, held 10 days before, prevented another treble-winning season. Life after Mourinho. The successful European performances of Mourinho's Porto projected the image of the coach and players like Carvalho, Ferreira and Deco, all of whom left the club in the aftermath of the Champions League victory. The following season was an atypical one, as the club had three different coaches, Luigi Denari, Victor Fernandes and José Copyright. Under Fernandes, Porto won the 2004 Supertaça Section A Sendido de Oliveira and the 2004 Intercontinental Cup, but lost the 2004 UEFA Super Cup to Valencia and was eliminated prematurely in the 2004 Euro 05 Tour Section de Portugal. Recording only 17 wins in 34 matches, Porto lost the Primeira Liga title to Benfica by 3 points. In 2005 a Euro 06, Dutch coach company Adriaens was picked to reorganize the team and return the club to the top of Portuguese football. His tactical discipline and the contribution of new signings Luco Gonzalez and Lisandro ʻklube led the club to not only retake the Primeira Liga title but also secure its fifth domestic double, after beating holders Vita Clube Rio de Setúbal in the Tour Section de Portugal final. Adriaens's domestic success did not transfer to the Champions League, as Porto finished in the bottom of its group. The club began the 2006 Euro 07 season with a new coach, Gisaldo Ferreira, signed from neighbours Boavista. Before Ferreira assumed his role, Porto won the season-opening Supertaça Section A, with former club player Rui Barros acting as interim coach. An experienced head coach, Ferreira had never achieved major club-level success, but in his first season in Porto he became national champion for the first time. The 2006 Euro 07 Primeira Liga title was only secured in a frantic final day, as Porto finished 1 point above Sporting and 2 above Benfica. In the following season, the club achieved the try for the second time in its history a Euro with ʻklube clinching the top goal scorer award a Euro, but lost the Tour Section A and Supertaça Section A finals to Sporting Camp. As a result of a legal investigation on match fixing in Portuguese football, Porto was punished with the loss of 6 points, which did not affect its final league classification. Having claimed a sixth league and cup double in the 2008 Euro 09 season, Porto was on course to emulate the Penta of the late 1990s, but the series was broken by Benfica in the following season. Although Ferreira won his first Supertaça Section A and defended the Tour Section de Portugal title, the team's failure to claim a fifth consecutive Liga Euro finishing third, outside the Champions League qualifying places a Euro, and a heavy defeat against Benfica in the final of the Tour Section da Liga contributed to his resignation at the end of the season. A home win against Benfica prevented the rivals from celebrating the league title at the Estádio do Dragão. Under Ferreira's steering, Porto always qualified for the Champions League knockout stage, reaching the quarter-finals in 2008 Euro 09, where it was eliminated by holders Manchester United. Villas-Boas and recent years. The arrival of Mourinho's former assistant André Copyright Villas-Boas, in the spring of 2010, set the stage to a highly successful 2010 Euro 11 season, which began with a 2-0 victory over Benfica for the Supertaça Section A. Spearheaded by João Moutinho, Sylvester Vela, Falcao and Hulk, Porto performed strongly in the Primeira Liga and assured its 25th title with 5 matches to play, after beating Benfica in its stadium. In addition, the club broke a number of records: biggest distance between champions and runners-up, most consecutive league wins and highest percentage of points in a 30-game season, dropping only 6 points and finishing the league without defeats, for the first time in its history. 8 years after the 2003 triumph, Porto returned to the UEFA Cup and reached a final in Dublin's Aviva Stadium. In an all-Portuguese affair, Porto beat Braga with a goal from the competition's top goal scorer Falcao and lifted the trophy for the second time, as Villas-Boas became the youngest UEFA competition-winning coach. 4 days later, Porto won its third consecutive Tour Section de Portugal with a convincing 6-2 scoreline, which not only secured the fourth trophy of the season but also placed Porto as the Portuguese club with the most titles in senior football. As Villas-Boas left for Chelsea, Porto recruited the services of his assistant, Vitor Pereira. For the third straight year, the club began the season with another Super Section title, which was followed by a 2-0 loss to Barcelona for the 2011 UEFA Super Cup. Although lacking the goal-scoring prolificacy of Falcao, Porto was able to revalidate the Primeira Liga title, but was eliminated prematurely from the Tour Section A and Champions League competitions. Transferred to the Europa League, Porto failed to defend its title after being knocked out by Manchester City. In the following season, the club went a stage further in both domestic cup competitions and in the Champions League, where it fell to Malaga in the last 16 round. In the 2012 Euro 13 Primeira Liga, Porto reduced the distance to leaders Benfica to 2 points, before hosting them in the penultimate matchday. In a dramatic turn of events, Porto won with a goal in stoppage time and moved to the top of the league table. An away victory in the last game confirmed the Trident Porto's 27th league title, a Euro the second without defeats. Porto entered the 2013 Euro 14 season with a new head coach, Euro Paulo Fonseca, signed from 2012 Euro 13 Primeira Liga third-placed Por Section Os de Ferreira Euro, but continued the trend of the previous 4 seasons by winning the Super Section A. This title would be the highlight of the season, as the club underperformed in every other competition it was involved. In the league, Porto led with 5 points over its pursuers, but a series of compromising results pushed the club down to third place, resulting in the sacking of Fonseca. Failing to overcome the Champions League group stage, Porto reached the Europa League quarter-finals, where they lost to the eventual winners Sevilla. In the following weeks, 2 semi-final losses against Benfica closed the doors to the finals of the Tour Section A de Portugal and Tour Section A da Liga. Crest and kit. The club's first crest was created in 1910 and consisted of an old blue football with white seams bearing the club name's initials in white. On October 26, 1922, the crest was changed to its present-day appearance after the club approved a design by Augusto Baptista Ferreira, a graphical artist and one of the club's players. In his proposal, the city's coat of arms, a Euro consisting at the time of a quartered shield surrounded by the collar of the Order of the Tower and sword and topped by a crown supporting a green dragon with a red banner inscribed with Invicta Euro, was added on top of the old crest, pushing the white letters down. In 1906, the club's first official team wore kits with a variety of colors and patterns, which included white shirts with red collars or vertical blue stripes, and even red shirts. This indefinition in the equipment was only solved in 1909, when through the initiative of Monteiro da Costa, Porto stipulated in its first statutes that the players had to use a shirt with blue vertical stripes, black shorts, and personal footwear as the club's uniform, at every training and match. Some argued that the kit should have included the city colours, green and white. Monteiro da Costa, however, defended the blue and white combination because he believed the colours should be those of the country's flag, and not of the city's flag, hoping that the club would not only defend the good name of the city, but also that of Portugal, in sporting feuds against foreigners. In 1975, Adidas became the first sports apparel manufacturers to provide kits for the club. 8 years later, Porto became the first Portuguese team to have a shirt partner, after signing a sponsorship deal with Revigra Copyrights for 10 million escudos per year. This deal lasted for 20 years, with successive renovations, after which the National Communications Corporation Portugal Telecom became the new shirt sponsors. Still, Revigra Copyrights remain as one of the club's main partners and longest-serving collaborators. Grounds. The club's first ground was the Campo da Rainha, inaugurated in 1906 with an exhibition game against Boa Vista. The site was located near the residence of Monteiro da Costa and was the property of the city's horticultural society. Aided by his father, a horticultor by profession, Monteiro da Costa rented a portion of uncultivated terrain to create the first dedicated football pitch in the country. Later that year, the society's vivarium were transferred to another location, allowing Porto to increase the pitch area to match the sport's official dimensions. The ground had capacity for 600 people, including a VIP tribune, and possessed a changing room equipped with showers and sinks, a bar and a gym. The first match between Porto and a foreign team took place at the Campo da Rocha, on December 15, 1907, when the hosts played Spanish side Real Fortuna. By 1911, the Campo da Rocha was becoming too small for the growing attendances. After being notified about the sale of the ground for construction of a factory, the club searched for a new ground and rented a terrain near the Constitui ഃpoɾtu street for an annual fee of $350. The Campo da Constitui ഃpoɾtu was opened in January 1913 with a match against Porto Cricket and Lawn Tennis Club and hosted Porto's home matches for the regional championship. Eventually, the larger capacity of this ground also became insufficient for the ever-increasing crowds attending the games, particularly against high-profile opponents. On several occasions, between the 1920s and 1940s, Porto played host to matches at the Campo do Amiel or the Estádio do Lima, home of local rivals Sport Progresso and Acada Copyright Mico, respectively. It was in the latter ground that the club achieved their most important victory at the time, as they beat English champions Arsenal 3-2 in a friendly match on May 7, 1948. In 1933, Porto approved a plan to build a new stadium to accommodate and meet the demands of larger attendances, but the project only moved forward with the purchase of 48,000 square meters of land in the eastern side of the city in 1947. Designed by Portuguese architects Aldemir Carneiro and Aires de Sá, the construction of the Estádio do Futebol Clube do Porto better known as Estádio das Antas for the neighbourhood where it was built began in January 1950, 1 month after the first stone was symbolically laid. 2 years later, on May 28, 1952, the stadium was inaugurated with a ceremony, featuring the presence of the President of the Republic Francisco Cravero Lopes, and a match against Benfica, which Porto lost €8. The stadium's initial layout had an open east sector, which was closed in 1976 with the construction of a two-tier stand that raised the capacity to 70,000. In 1986, works to lower the pitch and build an additional tier in the place of the athletics and cycling track were concluded, setting the capacity to a new maximum of 95,000. As stadium safety regulations became stricter during the following decade, the placing of individual seats brought the capacity of the Estádio das Antas down to 55,000 by 1997. The awarding of the UEFA Euro 2004 hosting rights to Portugal in 1999 was the perfect opportunity for Porto to move into a more modern, functional and comfortable stadium, in line with the demands of high-level international football. The club decided to build an entirely new ground and chose a site located a few hundreds of meters southeast of the Estádio das Antas. The project was commissioned to Portuguese architect Manuel Salgado, and construction took 2 years to complete at a cost of $98 million. Baptized Estádio do Dragão by President Pinto da Costa, for the mythological creature placed atop the club's crest, it was officially inaugurated on November 16, 2003 with a match against Barcelona. Porto won 2-0 in front of a record 52,000 spectators, which also witnessed the professional debut of Lionel Messi. In June 2004, the venue hosted the opening ceremony and match of the UEFA Euro 2004, and 4 other tournament matches. The highest attendance in an official match was registered on April 21, 2004, when 50,818 people saw Porto draw Deportivo La Coruña ± or without goals, for the first leg of the 2003 Euro 04 UEFA Champions League semi-finals. For safety reasons, its current capacity is limited to 50,431. Honours. As of the end of the 2013 Euro 14 season, Porto is the Portuguese club with the most official titles in senior football. Domestically, it has won 27 Primeira Liga, 16 Tour Section de Portugal, and a record 4 Campeonato de Portugal and 20 Supertaça Section Acendido de Oliveira trophies. Porto are also Portugal's leading team in international competitions, having won 2 European Cup UEFA Champions League, 2 UEFA Cup UEFA Europa League, 1 UEFA Super Cup and 2 Intercontinental Cup trophies, a Euro being the only Portuguese winners of the latter 3 competitions. On 2 occasions, Porto has won 4 titles in a single season, in 1987 a Euro 88 and in 2010 a Euro 11, which also included the club's second continental treble, a Euro the first since 2003. Domestic, Primeira Liga, winners, 1934 a Euro 35, 1938 a Euro 39, 1939 a Euro 40, 1955 a Euro 56, 1958 a Euro 59, 1977 a Euro 78, 1978 a Euro 79, 1984 a Euro 85, 1985 a Euro 86, 1987 a Euro 88, 1989 a Euro 90, 1991 a Euro 92, 1992 a Euro 93, 1994 a Euro 95, 1995 a Euro 96, 1996 a Euro 97, 1997 a Euro 98, 1998 a Euro 99, 2002 a Euro 03, 2003 a Euro 04, 2005 a Euro 06, 2006 a Euro 07, 2007 a Euro 08, 2008 a Euro 09, 2010 a Euro 11, 2011 a Euro 12, 2012 a Euro 13, runners-up, 1935 a Euro 36, 1937 a Euro 38. 1940 a Euro 41, 1950 a Euro 51, 1953 a Euro 54, 1956 a Euro 57, 1957 a Euro 58, 1961 a Euro 62, 1962 a Euro 63, 1963 a Euro 64, 1964 a Euro 65, 1974 a Euro 75, 1979 a Euro 80, 1980 a Euro 81, 1982 a Euro 83, 1983 a Euro 84, 1986 a Euro 87, 1988 a Euro 89, 1990 a Euro 91, 1993 a Euro 94, 1999 a Euro 2000, 2000 a Euro 01, 2004 a Euro 05. Tour section de Portugal, winners, 1955 a Euro 56, 1957 a Euro 58, 1967 a Euro 68, 1976 a Euro 77, 1983 a Euro 84, 1987 a Euro 88, 1990 a Euro 91, 1993 a Euro 94, 1997 a Euro 98, 1999 a Euro 2000, 2000 a Euro 01, 2002 a Euro 03, 2005 a Euro 06, 2008 a Euro 09, 2009 a Euro 10, 2010 a Euro 11, runners-up, 1952 a Euro 53, 1958 a Euro 59, 1960 a Euro 61, 1963 a Euro 64, 1977 a Euro 78, 1979 a Euro 80, 1980 a Euro 81, 1982 a Euro 83, 1984 a Euro 85, 1991 a Euro 92, 2003 a Euro 04, 2007 a Euro 08, ʻfuteʻbɔตู๊ section de Portugal, winners, 1981, 1983, 1984, 1986, 1990, 1991, 1993, 1994, 1996, 1998, 1999, 2001, 2003, 2004, 2006, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, runners-up. 1979, 1985, 1988, 1992, 1995, 1997, 2000, 2007, 2008, Tour section da Liga, runners-up, 2009 a Euro 10, 2012 a Euro 13, Campeonato de Portugal, winners, 1921 a Euro 22, 1924 a Euro 25, 1931 a Euro 32, 1936 a Euro 37, runners-up, 1923 a Euro 24, 1930 a Euro 31. European Cup/UEFA Champions League, winners, 1986. A Euro 87, 2003. A Euro 04, UEFA Cup/UEFA Europa League, winners, 2002. A Euro 03, 2010. A Euro 11, European Cup Winners' Cup, runners-up, 1983. A Euro 84, European Super Cup/UEFA Super Cup, winners, 1987, runners-up, 2003, 2004, 2011, Worldwide, Intercontinental Cup, winners, 1987, 2004, statistics. Recent seasons. Last updated, April 28, 2014, rank equals rank in Primeira Liga. PLD equals matches played. W equals wins. D equals draws. L equals losses. GS equals goal scored. GA equals goal against. PTS equals points. TP equals Tour Section de Portugal. TL equals Tour Section da Liga. Street equals Superta Section Car Sendido de Oliveira. UCL equals UEFA Champions League. UEL equals UEFA Europa League. GS equals Group Stage. QF equals Quarterfinals. R16 equals Round of 16. R32 equals Round of 32. R64 equals Round of 64. RU equals Runner-up. SF equals Semi-finals. W equals Winner, Players. Current First Squad. Updated as of July 13, 2014. Note: flags indicate national team as defined under FIFA eligibility rules. Players may hold more than one non-FIFA nationality. Organization: after going public in 1997, Porto created several satellite companies, FC Porto, a Euro youth football, basketball, handball, roller hockey, athletics, clubs magazine, etc. FC Porto, a Euro Futebol SAD. SAD stands for Sociedade Clube Nima Desportiva, Porto Estadio, Porto Multima Copyright Dia, Porto Comercial, Porto Seguro. The Porto SAD is listed in the Euronext Lisbon Stock Exchange. Personnel, current technical staff. Board members. Other sports. Active sections, basketball, billiards, boxing, handball, roller hockey, swimming. Extinct sections, Super League Formula, footnotes. References. Further reading, Bandleira, Joe Paulo Pedro. Barblia do FC Porto. Lisbon, Prime Books. ISBN A9789896550943. Tovar, Rui. Almanac do FC Porto 1893 a Euro 2011. Alfragide, Cadano. ISBN A9789892315430. External links, official website, club page at Primeira Liga, club page at UEFA.